So there has been an enormous uptick in an awareness of narcissism and narcissistic abuse in the past several years. And there are certainly many pros to this increased awareness, especially for those that have endured something like this. However, it's not all positive. And what I want to bring your attention to today are some of the pros and the cons of this increased awareness. So first, with the benefits. One of the most major ones is that it helps you find your community. When you have been through the absolute crazy making experience of being the target of gaslighting and other sorts of narcissistic abuse, you feel completely alone and you feel completely crazy. And just finding other people that have been there and that understand what you are going through is invaluable. Another benefit of it is that it helps to depersonalize your experience a little bit. I know when all of this happened to me, I felt like I was the target, like my ex-husband was doing all of these things to me. But as I read and I listened and I realized that no, all of these patterns, this is just what they do. It helped me to no longer see myself as a target and more of collateral damage. Because if these behaviors are universal, well, then it's obviously not just about you. The increased awareness of narcissistic abuse also helps to provide a common language. In fact, for so many of us, it's the first time that we're able to put words to what we've experienced. And this is so true when it comes to gaslighting, because that's one of those situations that it makes no sense when you're in it. You just have this vague uneasiness, this idea that something isn't right. And it's only once you start to put words to it, once you start to get some perspective, that you can start to find some understanding about what has happened. That shared language helps us to create understanding. After all, there is something so powerful about naming something. Once we name it, we feel like we start to have some dominion over it. The popular discussion about narcissistic abuse helps you realize that you're not crazy. There's a reason that so many of us describe our stories as Hollywood or soap opera, because it really is like fiction crashing into reality. And we can so easily start to feel like we're unhinged, like nobody's going to believe us. And after what we have been through, it is so important to have our experiences validated as real and not just fiction. The term narcissist helps to give us a framework for understanding what has happened to us. Sometimes what they have done is so extreme that it just doesn't make any sense. And part of that is because they're doing things that we personally can never imagine doing. And so once we start to read about the disorder, once we start to understand how they think and how they operate, it helps us to figure out, oh, maybe that's why they did this and that. Why did they do this? How could they do this? Who even is this person? Are they even capable of love? We ask ourselves all of those questions and more as we try to dissect exactly what happened. And once we have that label of narcissist, and once we read up on the disorder, it helps us to find some answers, however incomplete, to questions like those. Now, you still can't quite completely grasp it, nor, let's be honest, do you really want to be able to. But at least it helps you find some amount of comprehension as to how and why this happened. And then finally, the increased awareness gives you ideas and tools for recovery, as well as hope that there is recovery. Now that so many people are speaking out about this, there is this huge repository of information that can offer you guidance on how to move forward. And that's perhaps the biggest benefit, is that now you have these breadcrumbs from those that have been there that you can use to help guide you out of the darkness. Yet, even with all of those benefits, not everything is rosy when it comes to an increased awareness of narcissistic abuse. So, one of the downsides is that it can encourage a narrow focus. Once you have settled on that label of narcissist, it can be so tempting to essentially write a doctoral thesis on the disorder. We become so focused on that one thing and we blame all of what happened on that one label. And the problem with that is that you can lose focus on what's really important. And I've used this analogy before, but I love this one so much. Think about if you have been hit by a car. How much time are you going to spend researching the exact make and model of the vehicle that hit you? And how much time are you going to spend healing your body and doing the rehabilitation that you need to move forward? Another downside is that the label can often simplify the explanation. It seems like sometimes that narcissist has simply become synonymous with jerk, which is both a watering down of the term and also a misunderstanding of the underlying pathology. And even when the label does fit, it's still an oversimplification of the person. And all of that is not even getting into the issues surrounding a layperson assigning a psychiatric diagnosis without any clinical experience or tools. Narcissistic traits can occur in many people for a variety of reasons. Just one example, addiction can often manifest as something that looks a lot like narcissistic abuse. So really what that label is best used as a framework for understanding, not as a clinical and definitive diagnosis. Another problem with this increased awareness is that it can promote a sense of victimhood because we tend to paint the narcissist as this monster. And so the flip side then of that term is victim. And so we see ourselves as the person that all of this was done to. We are the subject of their attack. And it's so easy to become caught up in that place, to become stuck in that place. But we are so much more than whatever has been done to us. We are not victims. We are survivors. Now, along with that, the community itself, while often supportive, can also become enabling. The problem with any sort of community like this is that there are a lot of people that are stuck in that victim mindset. And well, victimhood often likes company. And so sometimes it almost seems like people are competing for the best sob story or the most extreme narcissistic partner. And so it becomes sort of this pain Olympics where it's more about telling your story and reveling in the hardship of it instead of working to overcome it. Now, the needs of a narcissistic abuse survivor evolve over time. At first, you do need your story to be heard and you need to tell it. You need to know that you're not alone and you need to feel like you are not crazy. And then what you start to need is some hope and some encouragement that there is life beyond this. And then finally, what you need is often a little bit of tough love to sort of kick you out of that place where you may be stuck and to help you move forward and regain your trust in yourself. And then finally, the label of narcissistic abuse can sometimes detract from personal responsibility. Now, none of what happened is your fault. This should not have happened to you. I am so sorry that you have been thrust into this nightmare against your will, and that you are now struggling to recover from your psychic wounds. It's not fair, and it is certainly something that you will never forget. Now, the narcissist issues are theirs to deal with. Not that most of them ever will, but their actions and their consequences are theirs to own. And your choices, well, they are now yours to make. You have survived in an encounter with a narcissist. So what are you going to do now?